So recently I had somebody send me an email to my hello@financialselfreliance.net, and I highly recommend, if you ever have a question on anything financially related, send me a question to that email. I'll be more than happy to answer it and do a video about it like I'm doing today. So somebody sent me a question recently about wanting to be able to retire, but they were concerned about the current situation in the economy. They were concerned about whether they should retire during a recession or during what they said was a pending economic collapse. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the email that I received and the answer that I would give if I was able to talk to that person directly. I did send them a reply back to the email, but I also I thought it might be a good video to do as well. So let's get started. My name is Paris Clough, and this is Financial Self-Reliance. On this channel, I love helping people manage, protect, and grow their money. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about a question that I received from a viewer who sent me an email. He says, I want to thank you for the information you provided, meaning the video that I made. I do have a question for you. I'm planning on retiring in the next few weeks, but am I making a mistake in doing so? Meaning, with the way things are going with a collapse soon, is this a smart move? Thank you in advance. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that I asked him. First of all, I didn't have a lot of content to be able to answer that question with any degree of professionalism. So I asked him a few questions like, what kind of money do you have set aside for retirement? Where is that money? What kind of investments do you have? How old are you? Do you have Social Security already? Are you retiring at the retirement age, or are you retiring early because you feel like you've obtained that financial independence number at whatever age you might be, but you obtained the financial independence number, which is a dollar amount, such that that amount of money that you've accumulated could pay either dividends or interest, such that all of your expenses for the year can be paid for, and you're not really dipping into the principal balance of the investment that you've made. For example, if you have expenses every year of $20,000 or $30,000, what you do is you take that dollar amount and you multiply it by 25, and that gives you the dollar amount that you need to have in order to be able to retire early. And that's your financial independence number. Why 25? Well, because the idea is that if you had your expenses of $30,000 times 25, which is going to be in the neighborhood of $800,000 or $900,000, let's just round off to $1 million. But if you had $1 million in the bank, no matter how old you are, if that, you could literally pull 3 or 4%, and that would pay for your bills every year. Now, the problem with that is that is assuming your bills stay static, number one, and number two, it assumes that the inflation doesn't go up at all. So you're going to probably still have to make more money or continue to make money even when you do hit your financial independence number, depending on, regardless of the age of where you hit it. So, financial collapse or recessions are often some really hard times to make that change from working to retirement. And so a lot of people traditionally during retirement years would think that that's when they're going to stop working. They're not going to do anything else. They're just going to live off of the assets that they've created over their working career. Well, if you're retiring early, and frankly, even if you're retiring at 65 or 66, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of years left. Most people live another 20 years, even in retirement at 65. So with that in mind, you might start a second career. You might have a part-time gig. Maybe you can retire from the job that you're in, that you created or that you first chose, that you're kind of getting over and you're not really interested in anymore, and then go and have enough money to pay the bills, and then you can work on a new career, something more exciting, or something that's going to give you that spark and that energy again to go out and kind of conquer the world again. So I would recommend that if you're going to retire, especially during a recession, that you have all of your ducks in a row, that you make sure that the money that you have is in the right place, especially if you're going to retire early. So what I mean by that is that if you have your money in a 401k or an IRA and you're younger than 59 and a half, I would highly recommend not having your money in those vehicles if you're going to retire before 59 and a half. But if you do, you're going to have to calculate the penalty that you're going to have in addition to your expenses. So you might actually end up draining that money a lot faster than you think, because 401ks, IRAs, even Roth IRAs aren't made to have you retire early. They're made for you to retire at 60 or older. So if you're going to retire earlier, you need to have your money in other places, maybe a traditional brokerage, maybe in a life insurance retirement plan. It depends on where you have the money, whether or not you're going to have to really calculate whether or not you're ready to retire. The other thing too is that in a recession, if you're planning to retire in the next 5 years and you're in an aggressive portfolio, I highly recommend that you back that down, because the 5 years right before you retire and the 5 years after you retire, a study was done many years ago by a company that's actually not in business anymore. What they determined was that the 5 years before you retire and the 5 years after you retire were critical, that your portfolio maintain its balance and maintain its value. So if you're within 5 years of retiring, I highly recommend you go into a very balanced and even conservative fund. So more bond bond funds, not so growth. Blue chip stocks are pretty good. Strong, companies that have been around for the longest time and that are solid, strong blue chip stocks. You don't want to get into speculative stuff. You don't want to be in growth. You definitely don't want to be in international stuff. You don't want to be in speculative things, frankly, at all, if you're within 5 years of retiring. So sometimes people have had enough money to they think they could retire in the next 5 years, and then a collapse or a recession or something hits, and now the balance is back down, so they may not be able to retire in the next 5 years. So especially if you have a goal in the next 5 years and everything's fine, set that money aside, because the recession hasn't technically happened yet, although we have seen some correction in the market already. I would highly recommend that you put that money into more conservative funds, and then once those monies are in conservative funds, of course, you need to have the right amount of money in the right place. You don't want to have it in one of those places that's going to cause you to have a bunch of penalties to pull the money out early. So there were still some questions that I had. So if the guy was under 60 years old, under 62, I should say, he wasn't going to be able to pull Social Security. Social Security is going to be a factor in someone's retirement. So if you're 62 or older, you can draw Social Security. I highly recommend that if you're going to continue to work, one of the strategies that I've used with some clients is that if you're going to continue to work to 66 or 67, that you draw the income at 62. Now, a lot of people might say, no, you should wait because then you get a bigger income. And that's true. If you're not going to be disciplined, then I would highly recommend just waiting till the full retirement, which is like 67 and change. But if you're going to be able to be disciplined, if you took that money at 62 and started investing it from 62 to 65, you're going to have a larger chunk of change that you can pull from that's going to give you a bigger balance than you would have gotten had you let the Social Security Administration do it for you, if that makes sense. So if you draw the money at 62, invest it in the market, invest it in good things, and then wait 5 years to pull it, and then use that period of growth to have that money go into a fund or something where you can actually grow it, and then you pull money off of it, the amount of money that you're going to pull off of it, the growth that you're going to have off it is going to be greater than if you had let the Social Security Administration keep that money and you pulled the whole amount at 67. If that didn't make any sense, shoot me an email at hello@financialself-reliance, and maybe we can set up a time where I can actually get into more details. So it's highly important for you to figure out if you're going to retire in the next year or so, you should be in conservative funds. If you're over 60 years old, then you're going to be able to retire with your 401k or an IRA or a Roth IRA. If you're over 62, then you can retire and pull some Social Security. If you're over 65, the other problem here is if you're younger than 65 and you're going to retire, it's highly likely that you're going to continue to need health benefits. And health benefits are an additional expense. If you were consistently getting your health benefits from your employer and that's not been added into your expenses after you retire, that's something that's important as well, because until you're 65, you're going to have to pay for your health insurance, and then at 65 you qualify for Medicare, and Medicare is a great benefit. It's only like right now this year Medicare is Part B anyways, is about $165 a month. So that's pretty inexpensive for health insurance, to be honest with you. So in a way, in terms of health insurance, I can't wait till I'm 65 because I'm excited to be able to have the good health insurance at that time. However, I'm excited to live my life and be between now and 65 and do the things that I need to do to kind of just continue to build my portfolio and my wealth. So there's a lot of factors, a lot of things go into whether or not you should retire now or retire later. And if you're young, you got to consider your health benefits. You got to consider the expenses over time that are going to continue to increase with inflation. You're going to be able to probably stay retired for a year or two or three, but then with inflation, your expenses are going to go up. If you're young enough, you might have not got a family yet. You might not have gotten any children yet. If you do have those things, those expenses start to come more quickly, especially as your children age. One of the things I realized is that I created a passive income in my life that paid all my bills about 5 years ago. Well, my children started to grow up. They started to need cars. They started to have car insurance. So my expenses started to increase quite dramatically. And in doing that, unfortunately, now I have had to increase my passive income. I've had to go back into working hard on increasing my passive income, increasing my income stream so that I can continue to maintain the lifestyle that I had of living that passive income lifestyle. But having higher expenses, I need to have a higher income to be able to take care of those so I can continue to live that lifestyle, if that makes sense. So if you're older, you have a lot more opportunities. 62 and older, 65 and older for sure, you have a lot more opportunities. And especially if you're looking at a volatile market and you want to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, take that allocation, whether it's a 401k, IRA, or just a standard brokerage account, take that allocation and make it more conservative. Get out of the growth funds, get out of the international stuff, get into blue chip stocks, get into mutual funds, ETFs, indexed funds specifically, get into maybe have a percentage of your portfolio in bond funds. Even municipalities, high yield bond funds are okay, but sometimes they can be a little bit risky. So, and you want to be in the kind of 2 to 4, maybe 6% range for bonds. Anything higher than that, you're going to get really into some risky stuff, and you might lose money between now and the time you actually retire. So first 5 years before you retire, if you're going to retire in the next 5 years, get conservative and stay conservative for about 10 years, because the 5 years after your retirement, you're going to need to stay very conservative. And then once you kind of got established what your new lifestyle is going to be for about 5 years, it's going to be really solid time frame to give you enough data to really figure out what you're going to do, and maybe even start a second career, or start a business, or start some other investment vehicle where you can actually replace or build an additional income, I should say. That second 5 years is going to give you that opportunity to then maybe after that is over, go more aggressive with your portfolio. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some information. If you want to retire right now, then and you haven't done any planning, you might be jumping the gun a little bit. So make sure you take the time to properly plan your retirement years in advance, preferably, so that you can have all your ducks set in a row. And remember that preparedness precedes power. So you want to be able to be prepared, be ready, be doing the things that you're supposed to do ahead of time, so that when the time comes for you to actually pull the trigger and have retirement, you're going to be set and okay. So hope this video helped. If you missed the last video I produced, you can catch it here. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel up here and check out this video that YouTube thinks you might like. Till the next video, have a fantastic day.